Yes, hello everyone. Welcome to the live stream. Today we're going to be talking about how to get to low body fat levels following my favorite bodybuilder, Frank Zane. He's my all-time favorite bodybuilder. You know, if you look behind me, let me give you a different camera angle. If you look behind me, you'll see I even have like a signed picture of Frank Zane, my favorite guy. And then once again, I just want to apologize for the late start. I've been having so many issues with my internet. Like we had internet issues. That's why I couldn't do the live stream last week. We had no internet all week. The guys came, you know, they replaced the line again, and actually the same thing started happening. I have like intermittent service. It comes in, comes out. They're coming back again on Monday, and I hope they can resolve this issue. So I'm really sorry. Right now I'm using my phone as a hotspot. So sometimes when I use my phone, the quality isn't good and it goes in and out, but let's see how it goes. Hopefully it'll be fine. And I kind of did this. I think James has been asking for something like this, a live stream based on, you know, something like all the guys like us, or even gals too, who want to get into like amazing shape, low body fat levels through diet. And I think this is going to be a really fun live stream. There's a little bit of math involved in this one. You know, we'll see how it goes, but then I simplified it at the very end. But I appreciate everyone showing up. Let me say hi to some people here. I know everyone was waiting for this to start. I appreciate you hanging in there with me. Amid, hey, thanks for showing up. Thanks for doing the live stream. I really appreciate you showing up. And Chris is here, which is great. Thanks, Chris. Also, Chris, thanks so much. Chris has been giving me these tips. He's been giving me money like stars, all these special things on Facebook that I was totally unaware of. I really have to learn these platforms a little bit better. I didn't even realize you can give people like super chats and tips on Facebook. But I have to say, I think a lot of my short form videos are doing really, really well. I finally hit 1 million views on a couple of different videos, and it's doing really well on Instagram and TikTok and even Facebook. So I'm really happy for that. And thanks to you, Chris. I really appreciate your support. Hey, Jeff, thanks for showing up. Sorry for the late start. Hey, Susan's here. Oh, thanks so much for showing up, Susan. That's great. I think you had a question a couple of weeks ago too, so I don't know if we went into it, but you know, we'll go into it. We can go into it today if you want. This should be an interesting live stream. You know, we'll see how it goes. Yes, the cooking videos are really helpful. Again, you know, I really like making those cooking videos. They're hard to make though, because first of all, I feel like I'm always filming my meals. I never could relax. Like every time I make a meal, especially for my lunch when I break my fast, I seem to film that because the lighting is good. I have to film some more of the evening meals. And now I've been doing videos like showing exactly how I make the meals, but even though it's only like 1 minute video, it's really time consuming because I have to, you know, break it up in different parts. But I'd like to get into that. So if you like those videos, let me know. I think Chris likes them. Yes, I do. So Susan's got some questions too, which is great. Okay, let's talk about this Frank. First of all, Frank Zane is by far my favorite bodybuilder. You know, he's kind of famous because he's the only guy who ever beat Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know, in a contest. And I think he's approaching probably, I don't know about 80. I think he's in his late 70s. He still looks amazing. I've always been such a big fan of his. And I have to say, I purchased this book. This is it's the High Def Handbook. I don't know, maybe 15 years ago. He even signed it for me. That's when I got this picture behind me. And I've referred back to this book 1,000 times, like over the years. There's such incredibly, like, great, amazing information. If you look at him, look at the physique on this guy. He must have been, I don't know, maybe in his mid-30s at this point. But he was always known as the guy who had perfect symmetry. You know, I've said this before. Like if you study the statue of David, Michelangelo statue of David, his neck, his biceps, and calves are exactly the same size. And that's kind of what the old school bodybuilders always tried to attain with perfect symmetry, like Steve Reeves. You know, remember Hercules and all these old time bodybuilders. So I always thought Frank Zane looked the best. He was also known as the pharmacist. He took a very supplement. He took tons of supplements and was very like technical in the things that he did. I thought he really was the best. So when we're talking about this like bodybuilding diet that I'm going to be talking about today, I'm going to be taking most of it out of this high definition handbook, and the math can get a little technical. So you'll see if you kind of lose yourself in the math. A couple of slides down the road, you'll see I broke it all down to kind of my concept, and Frank Zane also agrees with it. And that's going to be the simple 10 times your body weight calorie deficit, and then we'll break down protein, fats, and carbs with the macros. But what we'll talk about, let me just review. This is the review slide. We're going to go over this high-def handbook. We'll go over the macro ratios, your protein, fats, and carbs, like how much protein, how much fat, how many carbs, and then we'll go over how many calories you should be eating to get these low percent body fat levels. And I'm not going to go too much into the workout because, and he even talks about it even in his handbook, and also I've heard him on so many different interviews. Like, for example, he was a big believer in spending a lot of time training your abs to get like defined abs, but then he realized decades down the road that when you spend 20, 30 minutes training your midsection, you're really just burning calories. You're almost better off just doing aerobics because you can create a response with much less exercise. So I'm so glad I heard him say that in more recent interviews. So that's what we're going to cover today. Let's see if we got some other questions. I think Matt said he thinks Zane is 80. Well, that's incredible. I know, it's amazing how fast. I mean, it's amazing how fast time's going by. Yes, Frank. Yes, yes. Okay, this is ESJ is saying yes, Frank. The best in middle him when I competed. Oh, so you competed with him? Is that what you're saying? Yes, Frank. I modeled him when I competed. Well, so you must be an intense bodybuilder. That's great. Thanks for showing up. I appreciate it. Any input you have, let me know. You may know about this better than I do. Which is great. Hey, Steve. Thanks for showing up. 10 times ideal body weight or present body weight. It really depends. I say, this is how I look at it. Like, my general rule for going into a calorie deficit, for most people, I always say, multiply your body weight by 10 or 11. I think it's a great calorie deficit. Let's say you're 175 pounds, you want to weigh 160. You eat 1,750 calories a day. I think that's a nice calorie deficit. But if you're like really overweight, let's say you're 300 pounds or 275 pounds, and you want to weigh 200, you can be more aggressive than that. If you want to go with your goal weight, you can definitely go with your goal weight. So let's say you're 275, you want to weigh 200. I think you can go with 2,000 calories a day. Or I also like the idea, which we're going to talk about today, of cycling calories, meaning that one day, right, you can multiply your body weight. So say you're 275, you eat 2,750 calories day one, but then day two, you can use your goal weight, go down to 2,000 calories, and keep on rotating that. It's good for your metabolism to eat more some days. Plus, it's easier to stick with the diet. So, it's hard to say. You can do both, Steve. You can go either way. But when it comes to calculating your protein, which we're going to talk about a lot today too, if you have a lot of weight to lose, I probably would use your goal weight. But when it comes to this bodybuilding diet plan that we're going to be talking about today, we're going to increase the protein a little bit more than I normally would recommend. My general formula for protein, like the best way of doing it, I would say, is 0.9 grams per pound of lean body weight, but it's hard to determine that for most people. So I generally just say multiply your body weight by 0.7 to determine how many grams of protein you want to eat. But Steve, the same rule goes, would hold true to this as well. If you're like 300 pounds, I wouldn't want you to eat that much protein. I would use your goal weight to calculate protein. And then once again, a lot of this is experimenting. You have to figure out what your maintenance calories are just from experimenting and trying different calorie ranges. Same thing, calorie deficit. You have to pick that ideal deficit. It's a delicate balance where you have enough energy to be active and moving around, but at the same time, you can stick with it. So nothing's like carved in stone that we're going to be talking about today. You have to just, I'll help you, but we have to just, everyone has to figure it out for themselves exactly what the ideal deficit is and all that. But when it comes to these macros, you have to eat an adequate amount of protein. I think that's key number one. And then calories. Protein and calories is the key. I like to throw in fiber, but we're not going to talk about fiber too much today. But for the average person, I like to track three things: calories, protein, and fiber. Calorie deficit, adequate amount of protein, taking enough fiber that guarantees me that you're eating clean, that you're eating vegetables and some fruits, things like that. Okay. You're the best. Oh, no, I appreciate it. And yeah, definitely chime in. You may probably know Frank Zane's routine better than I do. Hey, James. Hey, thanks for showing up, James. This is great. Thanks, Mike, for this topic. Been very interested in another golden era bodybuilder, Vince Gironda. Yeah, Gironda. I always never pronounce his name. How do you pronounce his name? Gironda. he was ahead of his time. Totally agree. I read about so much of his stuff. He was just way ahead of his time as well. Had a very opinionated guy, but he really knew what he was doing, right? I think he felt like guys shouldn't squat because it gives you those carrot legs, like your legs get big on top and not big on the bottom. He was into hack squats, where's the lower part of the quad, a little bit more VMO. He has some extreme diet practices. I think maybe ESJ knows more about this than I do, but I'm sure he does. But I think Vince had people eating like 12 eggs a day with heavy cream. He was doing extreme things. I'm not that familiar with his philosophy, but I read some things about him. He looked amazing too. He was I think he was a guy that called Arnold like overweight, right? I think Arnold came to train with him and he said, "You're fat, Arnold," something like that. I guess these guys have strong personalities. Let's see what James got to say. Yes, James, Vince Gironda's steak and eggs diet was what finally got me to lose a lot of weight. Yeah, that's right. He was into eating just steak and eggs. Let's see what ESJ's got to say. You are so good and so on spot. Okay. Follow everything with you. No longer bodybuilding. Tennis teaching for. Oh, that's great. Tennis. That's great. I played a lot of tennis as a kid. I was actually a pretty decent. I know James is a tennis player. I was a pretty decent tennis player when I was in my teens. It's been interesting. I gave up tennis to get into like bodybuilding and working out. But when I was like 12, 13, 14, I was a big tennis player. Interesting. Okay, let's jump into it. Let's go. Let's talk about protein first. Probably the most important. This is probably the smallest slide of all the slides we have here. And then I'll even hold this up and I'll refer to some things exactly on what he says in the book if you're interested in seeing it. I think it may be a collectible almost, that handbook. So like I said, when it comes to protein, I would say a minimum, Frank Zane would say a minimum 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So real simple. All the examples I'm giving, and they may get a little complicated today, is I based it off someone who weighs 180 pounds. So just simple. You can't get anything more simple than this. If you weigh 180 pounds, you want to eat 180 grams of protein. And like I said, though, when it comes to the general population, I think you can go a little bit less than that. But if you're doing a lot of resistance training, you're working out, you're doing bodybuilding, a lot of bodybuilders go 1.5 grams, 2 grams per pound of body weight, right? But I think 1 gram per pound of body weight is pretty realistic, keeping calories in line. I think you'll get tons of benefit. Let's see. Love your total approach. Oh, I appreciate it. That's great. Okay, so that's protein, real simple, real straightforward. Right out of the handbook, and a lot of people have been saying this for years. Okay, this is the interesting part of the handbook, and I love this. I love the idea of cycling carbohydrates. And the general concept behind it is that when you're eating low carb, right, you're dipping into fat stores and you'll be burning body fat, but you have to eat enough carbohydrates from time to time so you have energy to work out. Plus, carbohydrates volumize the muscle cell, right? Like we always say. Excess carbs from a meal get stored in the muscle and the liver in the form of glycogen, right? Glycogen is what fuels muscle contraction, like makes ATP, energy, triphosphate, right? So you want to eat a reasonable amount of carbohydrates if your main goal is to be as muscle as you can, and you want good energy to work out, do resistance training in the gym. So I love this concept of going like low carb for 3 days, and then 1 day you increase your carbohydrates. Fill up the muscle cells with glycogen, gives you energy to work out, right? So, and this is kind of like what's right out of the handbook. And a lot of bodybuilders and people have been talking about this for years, but a lot of it comes from these older guys like Geraldo and Frank Zane. So this is how it works. 3 days in a row, you want to eat 0.5 grams of carbs per pound of body weight. But then on the 4th day, you want to double that. You want to go 1 gram of carbs per pound of body weight. I know it can get a little confusing, the math. So 3 days, half the amount of carbs. Day 4, you kind of eat equal carbs and protein. And here's the math. And this math is still relatively simple. Let's say you're that same 180-pound guy. I'm going to say guy, even though I know there were women watching this too. And if you're a female bodybuilder or whatever, you can do the same thing as well. I don't think there's really any difference. You take 180 pounds, you multiply that by 0.5, like half a gram, and you can eat 90 grams of carbs for 3 days, right? But then on the 4th day, you're going to go 1 gram of carb per pound of body weight, 180 grams of carbs. And that's kind of be carb cycling. You're kind of getting the best of both worlds, right? So for 3 days, you're going to be like burning fat. And then the 4th day, you're going to carb up, volumize your muscle cell, give you energy to work out. And you'll just be depleting your glycogen stores along those 3 days. And you might even be in a mild state of ketosis the last day or two if you're working out hard and you're doing all that. And I don't know, I didn't want to get into the workout too much, but Frank Zane would also recommend maybe doing 3 hours of aerobics a week besides doing your consistent, resistance training. Let's see what Steve's got. Okay, this is what Steven's doing. Okay, Steven, I never saw that face shot of you, Steve. That's an intense shot. I like it. Pretty cool. Okay, doing 2 mats. So Steve's doing 2 mats. 2 mats stands for 2 meals a day. Having trouble getting all my protein. So I ordered some whey isolate online. We'll add 30 grams without much trouble or money. That sounds great. I love that. See, my favorite diet is really 2 mat, 2 meals a day with a protein bar or protein shake. So, for example, like what I do, because I try to eat about 150 grams of protein every single day, minimum, maybe even more. So I'll have like 2 meals with a minimum of 60 grams of protein in it. And people say, how do you get 60 grams? It's so easy. Every 4 ounces of chicken, fish, and meat is about 50 grams. So if I just have like a 10-ounce piece of fish, or sometimes I double protein. If you're watching my meals, I'll do like a can of sardines, which is 21 grams of protein. Then I'll cut up 8-9 ounces of steak, put it on top of an arugula salad. So I can easily get 60 grams of protein twice a day. And then either I'll do a no-cal protein bar, which is 21 grams, or a Quest, or maybe I'll just do like a whey protein isolate. I like Garden of Life. It's probably my favorite whey protein isolate. Sometimes I even do their plant protein, which is nice too. Is it interesting? Because ever since that study came out on erythritol, that those sugar alcohols, which is in the no-cal bar, and they use them in all these whey protein powders, and there really is a reasonable correlation that if you go 30 grams or more, you can't, it can't produce, like, it increases your chance of getting blood clots and things like that when you're older. So I'm trying to limit my sugar alcohol. The sugar alcohol is just those like artificial sweeteners, the sweeteners for, instead of using sugar that have no calories. And like a no-cal bar has about 6 or 7 grams, which is no big deal. They're talking about 30 grams. So I've been cutting back on that, and probably what I'm going to do is that instead of going with these flavored whey protein isolates, I'm probably going to go back to a little bit more old school. And I have it at my gym too. I may go just with plain egg white, unflavored. I may go with a whey protein isolate that has no flavor. See, I don't mind, And I also, generally, when I'm doing these whey protein shakes, I generally take a scoop of beetroot powder that I like to throw in there, because beetroots are naturally high in nitrates. I talk about this all the time, which convert to nitric oxide, which is great for blood flow and all that. So it's a great like pre-workout, intra-workout type drink anyway. And you get a lot of flavor from the beet powder. And it's like unsweetened. It's naturally sweet. Beets are naturally sweet. So I think I'm going to start switching over to that. I just love those no-cal bars because they're 15, 17 grams of fiber. And I think I can handle 6 or 7 grams of sugar or alcohol without any issues whatsoever. I think anyone pretty much can. You just, I guess this study was more about people who were drinking, just pounding like 6 or 7 Diet Cokes a day, and just, and constantly putting these artificial sweeteners in their coffee and their tea. But typically you can do like a scoop or two of whey protein isolate with a whey protein concentrate with a little bit of sugar alcohol and have no issues. You're probably only going to get 5, 6, 7 grams. I don't even see it listed, because now people are going to start inquiring about it. So I bet they're going to start putting the amounts in the protein powders. Okay, let's see. Hey, Juice. Hey, Nicholas is here. Hey, Mike, trying to build some muscle. I'm 15 pounds. I'm 151 pounds. What would you say is a good calorie intake to do? Okay, that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today, Nicholas. If you're 151 pounds, I would say maintenance calories for you would be, and this is a general rule I like to use too, is you take your body weight and you multiply it by 15. So I'll do a quick calculation for you. Let's just say you're 150 pounds. Let's say you're 150 times 15. That puts you at about 2,250 calories. That might be a nice that might be a nice amount of calories for you to have. And you don't have to do that every day. You can maybe do it every other day. You can cycle. Like maybe one day, stay at around 1,800 calories. Next day, go to 2,200 calories. Make sure you're taking an adequate amount of protein. But you're gonna have to experiment. But I think you'll get a lot out of this presentation. Hey, thanks for showing up. I appreciate it. Good live stream. Thanks for showing up. Hey, Steve. Too many sugar, alcohol, and I need to be near. Yeah, I know. A lot of people affects their stomach too. No doubt about it. I agree. Yeah. ESJ, yeah, beetroot powder, all great stuff. Yeah, me too. I love the beetroot powders. You'll probably know about this. I also throw about maybe 5 to 6 grams of L-citrulline in my pre-workout, drink too. That L-citrulline is a non-essential amino acid, helps the body make arginine, which in turn helps the body make nitric oxide. So these things are in all pre-workout drinks, but I like to make my own because first of all, I don't like a stim. I don't like when they put caffeine or some of these ingredients in these pre-workout drinks. I also don't like L-citrulline malate. I like that. You get the malic acid half the time from these pre-workout drinks anyway. I like to just take the L-citrulline with the beetroot powder and some protein powder. That's how I like to do it. It's kind of interesting because we're going to talk about some of Frank Zane's supplements that he recommends. And this is written a while ago. He takes arginine. He was taking arginine. See, arginine will help the body, make nitric oxide too. But it seems like the new research is indicating that it's hard to process and absorb arginine. Even though L-citrulline is more expensive than taking arginine, you're probably better off taking L-citrulline to help the body make arginine to make nitric oxide, as opposed to taking L-arginine. I know it's confusing, but it seems like that works better. You never know for sure, but I've had better results taking L-citrulline. Even L-arginine can upset your stomach a little bit too. Okay, so let's go over this carbohydrate thing again. So we got the protein, right? 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. If you're into bodybuilding, you want to lower your body fat levels, or just in general. Carbohydrates you're going to cycle 3 days, 0.5 gram per pound. 1 day you're going to carb up, right? 1 gram of carbs. So if you're 180 pounds, you're going to be eating 90 grams of carbs for 3 days, 180 grams of carbs for 1 day. Okay. And then when it comes to fats, kind of interesting. I'm going to talk about myself too a little bit after this slide. Frank Zane recommends no more than 30% of your calories come from fat. And this is when the calculation can get a little difficult, but we'll see. So, and just so you know, protein 4 calories per gram, carbs 4 calories per gram, but fats have 9 calories per gram. So it gets a little confusing when you say, I can say to someone, eat an equal amount of proteins and carbs in grams, but fats, it's double, so it gets a little confusing. But just keep that in mind. And it can be a little complicated to calculate a third of your calories from fats when you just know how much you're getting from proteins and carbs. But I'm going to try to break it down for you in the next slide. And this is where the math can get a little bit complicated. It's interesting. My wife is, she's really smart, my wife. First of all, she's a PE, she's a public engineer. She has her PE license, environmental. She specializes in environmental engineering. Perfect score in math SATs. Can you believe it? Perfect score. The girl can do anything mathematical. Like, she's like, it's almost like Goodwill Hunting. That guy. She's not at that level, but I mean, my wife is incredible at math, and she was helping me figure this out because I couldn't even. Sometimes it leaves my brain, even though Frank Zane has it in his booklet explaining all these numbers, it can get a little complicated. So let's try to go through this really simply, because it is pretty important. Okay, so when it comes to calories, right? We know the protein, that's simple. You're 180 pounds, 180 grams of protein, right? We got the carbs. 3 days, 90 grams of carbs, right? 1 day, 180 grams, right? So let's calculate day 3 first. So you got 720 calories from protein. Then you have 360 calories from carbohydrates. So that puts you at 1,080 calories when it comes to protein and carbs. This is where it gets a little confusing. Now you want about 25 to 30% of your calories that come from fat. So unless you have one of these complicated calculators, I did this with my wife, because Frank Zane used 3/4, which you can't do with the calculator. So we figured out 1.3. If you multiply 1.33 times your total calories, that's going to give you how many calories you should eat with the fat. It turns out to be 1,436 calories. So like a quarter of your calories should be coming from fat. That's like Frank Zane's equation for determining calories and fat. So 40 grams of fat. And I'm going to give you a real simple way of doing this a couple of slides down the road based on the 10, multiplying your body weight by 10. But if you just look at it like that, you don't have to be exact. 3/4 of your calories are going to come from proteins and carbs, and maybe like a quarter to a 30 of calories come from fat. You know, and let me talk about myself a little bit here. Like, I did a diet like this, very similar to this diet, for most of my life. In my 20s, 30s, early 40s, I did more. This is a little bit more traditional-ish bodybuilding, where I ate like a high protein always. I probably even ate more than 1 gram. I ate, you know, a good amount of carbohydrates because I wanted energy to work out. But I went very low fat back then. I almost only went 10% of your calories from fat. And it seems like the newer research, and you know, that can affect your hormones, testosterone, things like that. And it really worked for me. I maintained low body fat levels, but I was hungry all the time. I think from all the high carbs, making insulin constantly. And then in my mid 40s, I switched over to more of a higher fat, always kept protein high, lower carb type diet, and it was better for me. I was never hungry. I can maintain good low body fat levels doing that, and my blood work was better. My triglycerides were lower, and my HDLs were higher, all things like that. But still, 30% fat based on this is still not, you know, too low. It's not too high. I kind of like it. I think this is a good plan, especially for someone like Nicholas, a younger guy, or even someone in their 40s, 50s. You know, I think this can really work for you, this equation. 3/4 of your calories from protein and carbs, maybe a third or so, a quarter from fat. But let's break down day 4, because this is what can get a little confusing. So day 4 is your cycle day, right? When you up your calories by eating mostly more carbohydrates. But it gets a little confusing because the equation changes and you're going to be eating a little bit more fat too. See, that's one of the biggest takeaways from this is that you never cut protein. You always want to eat that 1 gram of protein per pound of the body weight. That's going to help you maintain your muscle mass. Plus, protein has the highest stomach effect. It's also great for satiety. Never cut back on protein. Just keep that in mind. So on day 4, you're going to up those carbs, right? So now you're going to be eating an equal amount of calories from protein, an equal amount of calories from carbs. 180 grams of protein, 180 grams of carbs. That brings you at 1,440 calories, right? You multiply that again. I know I'm losing people, like I see people are leaving, but I know the math is a little confusing. If you're hanging in there with me, it's going to be a lot simpler in a slide or two. You multiply those total calories by 1.33, that brings you up to 1,950 calories. So just to simplify it, for 3 days, if you're 180 pounds, right, you're eating 1,436 calories, right? 180 grams of protein, 90 grams of carbs, 40 grams of fat. But on day 4, right, you're eating 1,900. So you're eating like 400 or 500 calories more. Like, not only your carb cycling, your calorie cycling, you're eating a little bit more fat, and you're doubling your carbohydrates. Okay? That's the simple way of doing it. And I tried to give you that 1.33 just to make it really simple. Let's see what Nicholas got to say. Okay, this is Nicholas. I've been eating 2250 calories, which is great daily, and I haven't gained any fat. Sounds good. So I need a little bit more, as this is my maintenance. Or can I build muscle? You know, I do think you can build muscle on maintenance calories. It'd probably be a little bit easier to go a little bit more, but at your point, when I know, Nicholas, you know, you lost a lot of weight, you're doing great, you're a young guy, even 100 calories. I mean, if you're really following everything, and you seem to be, I know you I don't know if you're weighing your food or taking it to that degree, but you can just increase your calories 100 calories, eat a little bit more protein, maybe a little bit more carbohydrates or something like that. And you can even do, like I say, maybe every other day. But I do think you can gain muscle at maintenance calories too. In a deficit, it's kind of tough. Not impossible, but tough. But I think maintenance or slightly above maintenance, maybe you should work on that. Maybe go 100 more calories. You know. Let's see what James says. Vince Gerarda, how am I pronouncing his name right? Vince Gerarda thought that you need fat to help digest the protein. I thought that was it. You know, I'm sure you do. I think hormones for sure too. If you go too low on fat, I think you're going to have issues with your hormones. And when I mean low, I mean below 10%. But 25, 30%, I think most of the bodybuilders nowadays are eating more fat levels like that, 25, 30% fat, as opposed to going really, really low. And also, I didn't really talk about this here because Frank Zane didn't talk about it in his booklet. But I also like the concept too. But this is really more if you're competing, or maybe you just want to look amazing for some reason. Say you're a movie star, you want to look amazing in a movie. I like this plan where you follow it, but then maybe 2 or 3 weeks before, you want to just look off the charts and get like as low body fat as you can, I can see going into straight up state of ketosis, meaning where you keep the protein high, right? You go down to very low carbs, maybe 50 grams or less, increase your fat calories, and go into ketosis and just burn some body fat. And then a day or two before you want to look amazing, then you carb up. You eat 300 grams of carbohydrates for like 2 days, 400 grams, volumize the muscle cell. You'll look incredible for a day or two. That would be more like a pre-contest type protocol. Or even, this is what maybe this is what Hugh Jackman would do, right, before he does like a shirt off, a shirtless shot on like Wolverine. You know, he may go into ketosis for a day or two and then carb up. I mean, ketosis for a week or two and then carb up and just look amazing. I like that approach too, but that's kind of extreme stuff, right? So we got this idea, day 4, you're up in your carbs and you're eating a little bit more fat and you're taking in 400 or 500 more calories. I feel like I'm losing people, but hey, you know, this is kind of a bodybuilding-ish type thing. Okay, here's Nicholas. I've been noticing I've been getting acne because I stopped fasting and I've been eating 3 meals a day. When I was fasting, I didn't have acne. It's really strange. I haven't been eating bad. Yeah, I wouldn't be concerned about that, Nicholas. You know, you're just at the age. My kids went through it. You're just at the age. You're a teenager. You know, there may not even be any correlation to you fasting or not fasting or anything with the acne. Okay. And this is a slide just explaining generally what I was talking about with the carb cycling. So 3 days you're going low carb, right? 0.5 grams per pound of body weight. Day 4 you're eating more carbs. Multiply your body weight by 1. 3/4 of your total calories come from proteins and carbs. This is right out of Frank Zane's book. So the whole theory and concept behind it is 3 days you're burning body fat because you have lower calories, low carbs. But on the 4th day, you're carving up so you have energy to work out. You know, so you can keep the workouts going really, really well. Hey, Gwen, thanks for showing up. This is great. You're not losing me. I just got here. LOL. Palm Sunday, church went long. Yeah, no, that's good. I'm glad you're going to church. That's nice. That's nice. It's funny. My wife went to Catholic school. I didn't go to Catholic school or anything. Okay. So let me give you more of a simple way. This is like a simple way of doing it. And what I also liked about the, you can see Frank there. What I also like about Frank Zane's booklet is he also talked about like more general terms in this booklet as well too. Like if you don't want to do all those calculations, he does feel that 10 times your body weight is just a nice calorie deficit to begin. And I definitely agree. So let me show you a real simpler way of doing this. And this would be my like 10 times your body weight formula using his same concepts. So you take your body weight, you multiply it by 10. So let's go back to that 180 pound guy. So 180 pounds times 10 is right, 180 grams of protein, 4 calories per gram. So you're eating 720 calories in protein. Okay. Now when it comes to carbs, you got the 2 options. Right, for 3 days, you're going to multiply your weight by 0.5 and eat 90 grams of carbohydrates, which is 360 calories, right? You do that for 3 days. Then on the 4th day, you go to that Frank Zane formula. You multiply your weight 180 by 1, you're eating 720 calories. So it's pretty simple, right? 10 times your body weight. For 3 days, you go lower on carbs. On the 4th day, you're up your carbs. Right? Same thing with the fat. Using that same formula. So for 3 days, you take your 720 from your protein, you take your lower carb, that's 1080. You're going to be eating you minus 1080, right, from 1800 because 10 times your body weight. You're going to take in 720 calories of fat. So your fat's going to be even with your protein. But then on the 4th day, right, you're going to be lowering your fat, right, and you're going to be upping your carbohydrates, right? So you're going to be eating equal carbs to protein. So one day on when you're going low carb, your fat and protein are going to be equal calories, but then on day 4, right, your fat and your protein will be equal, and you're going to be at that 1800 calorie range. So they really keep it simple. All you really have to do is multiply your body weight by 10, right? Make sure you're eating enough protein, 1 gram per pound of body weight, and then you're going to kind of like carb cycle in a way. One day eat lower carbs, one day eat more carbs, right? And you can adjust your fats accordingly. I hope you followed that. I know the number can look confusing. I think this is an easier way of doing it. This is what I would personally do to make it really, really easy. Okay, let's see. Okay. It's easy. Body weight times 1 times 0.75. Okay, but I do 1 time. I tell satisfy focus on protein. No, I agree. I totally agree. That's a good way of doing it too. Body weight times 1 times 0.75. Yeah, that's a great way of doing it too. I like that. Okay, here's Nicholas again. Now, Mike, I want to go into a slight calorie deficit for a month because I feel like I still have 3 to 5 pounds of fat. My bottom part of my stomach is still you can do that, Nicholas. Why not? It's good to cycle. I mean, you've been out of a deficit for a while now. If you want to do that, you can. And hopefully, just keep the resistance training going. Don't be too aggressive with the calorie deficit if you want to maintain that muscle mass. Just be delicate with it. Even just like I say, just think 100 calories a day is 10 pounds a year, right? If you're going by the numbers. Mediterranean oils on oil. No, I totally agree. I mean, I'm going to talk about that a little bit. You'll see. But I literally, with me personally, what I recommend, I pretty much only use extra virgin olive oil on everything. I get some saturated fat. Well, there's everything in extra virgin olive oil. There's saturated fat, there's poly, mostly monounsaturated fat, but there's all the fats are in extra virgin olive oil. But I get the saturated fat from the red meat, or from the animal protein, from the salmon, things like that. I very rarely use any other types of oil. Hardly ever use any butter. Every now and then, even though I don't necessarily think it's that bad. But I don't know. I still like to keep an eye on saturated fat. I know a lot of people, carnivore people, things like that, don't think it's so bad. But I'll have bacon now and then. I even have one picture of me making some bacon this week. I'm going to pull it into at the end of this presentation. I'll always go over some meal examples. But I totally agree with that. I love the Mediterranean diet. I love Mediterranean oils. I'm a tremendous believer in extra virgin olive oil on pretty much everything. Let's see what Jeff's got to say. My body apparently disagrees with the 10 times formula because I don't lose weight with that many calories. I think I must retain too much water. It's hard to say. Well, it just shows. I mean, I'm so glad you said that, Jeff, because everyone's body is different, and it really is just a calculation or an estimate. I have women too who can't go 10 times. They don't lose weight. They have to go even lower. I mean, and if you want to get even more technical, you can use one of those calculators that are online to try to figure out what your basal metabolic rate is and your energy expenditure, and you can, and I did that also for decades, for about 20 years, when I worked in those bigger gyms. Like when I started my career, working in gyms from like the age of 16, and it seems like early on we would, especially, I'm also an exercise physiologist for the American College of Sports Medicine, and I have tons of certifications, also undergraduate work, and we did a lot of things like that where, you'd ask people 100 questions about their activity level, their sleep patterns, their age, and blah, 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 just try to figure out, try to calculate what their resting metabolism, basal metabolic rate is, all that, as opposed to ventilating someone on a machine, that's the really only real way of knowing how to do it. So you may want to try that, Jeff. You may want to go online and fill out a whole bunch of forms, answer a whole bunch of questions. It may give you a better idea of really what your maintenance calories are. Maybe they're a lot lower than we're estimating with this formula. And 9 times your body weight, I think, is reasonable too. You start getting lower than that, though, people have a hard time. Let's see what James got to say. James, I have a quick question. What do you think about almond milk in your protein shake compared to water? It's interesting. I've drank it a couple times. I'm not that familiar with almond milk, though. I'm curious. I would like to know what the breakdown is, like how much protein, carbs, and for calories. I mean, people love it. I can't say, James, that I'm really that familiar though with almond milk. I like putting water in all the protein shakes. I just know there's 0 calories. I know I'm getting more than enough protein from the protein powder. If I want a little more protein, I probably want to put a little more powder in there. You know what I mean? As opposed to going with the almond milk. I don't know if almond milk's expensive or not, like what's going on with that. But if it's high in protein or it's just low in calories and it gives you a good flavor, I think it's fine. I think my daughter likes it in her coffee. She's into those lattes. She's always ordering like oat milk or almond milk, but I'm not that familiar with it. Let's see what Susan Cabelli. Do you like avocado oil too? I think it's okay. a lot of people like it for a couple of reasons. First of all, it has a high burn rate, meaning that you can probably use it for more cooking at higher temperatures. Like if you do want to fry something, it has, it's not really, it's not as high, not that high. It's similar to olive oil, high in those monounsaturated fats. I find it to be somewhat tasteless, like it has no taste at all. I used to use it more and more. It's interesting because I used to think that it was bad when the olive oil got too hot. And then I read this book. It was a book from Dr. Mercola, and I forget the other guy, that guy, Nick, Italian guy, I forget his last name. He's like another brilliant guy. He's another PhD in nutrition and all this stuff. And he was explaining how he doesn't think the burn rate of olive oil really means anything because it's so high in polyphenol, so high in so many different things. Like I literally, before I like saute meat, even red meat, I put olive oil on the front and on the back of it, even though I'm like searing it, because the polyphenols, olive oil, I think is just so healthy for you. And I used to use avocado oil, Susan, with things like that. If I was going to like fry something, or if I was going to, sear meat, and I stopped. I really only use extra virgin olive oil. First of all, I love the taste of it, and I think it's a healthy oil. But I think avocado oil is still fine. Like I don't really use coconut oil anymore either. I used to do that too, for the medium train, the MCTs and all that stuff. I stopped doing all that because I want to keep my saturated fat a little bit on the low side. I feel like I get more than enough saturated fat just from the red meat and the salmon and things like that I'm eating. So I try to minimize any more saturated fat. Okay, ESJ, follow your stuff exactly for tournament play. Sounds good. Sounds great. Okay, hey, let's see what Steve's got to say. I use coconut milk in my shake because I love the flavor, but the fats add up. Yeah, I know. I like coconut milk too, but I used to try to fool around with some curry, cooking some Indian type dishes, and then when I started looking at how many calories and how much fats in that coconut milk, I said, holy moly, I mean, it's really could be heavy. I even used to buy like light, like low fat, and it's not even low fat, it's still an insane amount of fat, coconut milk. So, like I always say, calories, you got to keep an eye on calories. So maybe a little bit, Steve, on that, but I do agree with you. It can creep up on you pretty quick. Let's see what Jeff's got to say. I've got almond milk in my coffee right now and some monk fruit drops. Yeah, the monk fruit drops are probably good. I wonder if this, it's interesting. When I was looking at that sugar alcohols, erythritol, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, some of the articles were talking about how even stevia and monk fruit, since it's so sweet, like I'm going to exaggerate a little bit, say it's 1,000 times sweeter than sugar. They say that a lot of companies who are putting out like monk fruit and stevia, because they want it to look like sugar, right? Like 5 grams as a teaspoon, they'll add the sugar alcohols to the stevia, to the monk fruit, just so it has the same consistency and look, because it's nowhere near it, like sugar alcohol is nowhere near as sweet as stevia or monk fruit. So you may want to be a little careful with that too, Jeff. But the fact that it's a liquid and you're just doing drops, it's probably not an issue. But if you're buying it in packets, like if you're buying in a packet and you're like a packet of monk fruit, and if it looks as big as a teaspoon, like one of those sweetener type things, they're probably adding the sugar alcohols to it just to make it have the same consistency, which you probably don't want. So keep that in mind. Let's see what Susan got to say. Most commercial nut milks have unnecessary fillers and are so easy to make. So that sounds good, Sue. That's great. Yeah, I never went down that route of those nut. My wife does like almond butter. I see that in the refrigerator. I never even tried it, but every now and then I see her taking a teaspoon of almond butter. Okay, here's Nicholas. I think the thing that works best for me was 5-2. But I probably never do it again. Okay, no, I do like the 5-2. And if people don't know what the 5-2 diet is that 5 days a week you eat normally, but then 2 days out of the week, you go into an aggressive calorie deficit and eat 25% of your normal calories. I kind of like that. And then what I would want you to do on the days that you do the 2 very low calorie days, once again, prioritize protein. Don't cut back on protein. Almost, if you can do 2 like high protein, almost do 2 carnivore days, and then eat normally 5 days. I think that's a good diet. You'll deplete glycogen. You can maintain muscle mass. You can be in a calorie deficit. But obviously, Nicola, if you don't want to do it again, just don't. If it doesn't work for you, not everything works for everyone, right? Okay, this is Susan. High burn rate is the reason I use it, but I use EVO2 most of the time. Yeah, I know a lot of people don't like the burn rate of that olive oil, but I used to think that after reading this book, I'll have to read it again. I didn't read it, I listened to it. And I know Susan knows that I talked to Susan one time when I was walking, and I walk all the time, and I'm always listening to these audiobooks, and that was the audiobook I listened to. This was a couple of years ago it came out. I have to listen to it again. But the whole book was just like a deep dive into fats and all the different types of fats. I really did enjoy the book. Okay, this is Susan. I usually take a tablespoon, right, of EVO daily. I think that's good. I use so much extra virgin olive oil that I don't even have to do that, because I'm always sauteing my vegetables. I eat an avocado salad almost every single day. The only time I won't put EVOO on my avocado salad is generally when I'm having sardines. I buy that Henry and Lisa's brand, which I love, and they pack them in organic extra virgin olive oil, and I must get 2 tablespoons right there, but I must get a few tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil every single day. That's why a lot of people sometimes they comment on me and say, Mike, I mean, you're gonna be emaciated. Like how do you live on so low calories? But you just think every tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil is 136, 140 calories. So sometimes when I'm eating an avocado salad, I can have 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil there. That's 280 calories right there. So I mean, these meals that I show aren't as low calories as they may appear to be at times. Okay, let's see. ESJ, virgin coconut oil in all vegan shakes, oil, and I cook. Okay, so ESJ cooks with virgin. So you do like coconut oil. I used to use a lot of coconut oil. I do like the taste of it. I just sometimes I like to cut back on the saturated fat a little bit. It's interesting because I used to do from time to time those keto diets to get into ketosis, and when I did a lot of videos on the ketogenic diet, I used to get emails and texts from people who say, Mike, I don't know what's going on. I went to the doctor, had blood work done, and my cholesterol went to 400. They probably have that APO, they probably have that genotype, unfortunately, where they don't process ApoE4, right? Where you don't process the oils that well, the saturated fat that well. So I personally try to cut back. I know if I couldn't debate these guys like, Paul Saladino, who has 2 medical degrees. I mean, he would out-debate me in a second, or maybe some of these other doctors who are really into the ketogenic type diets. But I still kind of keep a little bit of an eye on saturated fat. Most of my fat is monounsaturated fat from extra virgin olive oil. I eat an avocado every single day, right? I do eat a lot of omega-3 type. I lean more towards pescatarian. I eat a ton of sardines, salmon, even smoked salmon. I do eat red meat a couple of times a week, but I eat whole eggs with those pasture-raised, those high omega-3 type eggs. I do keep a little bit of eye on saturated fat, but I do like the taste of coconut oil, but I have cut back on it. Let's see, Hamid. Okay, I'm 23, but doing I'm 28, but doing strength training. I need carbs to fuel my workouts. I want to lose fat too. Weight is 152 pounds, 5'5". So maybe I should try this. I think this could really work for you. And you can actually Google Frank Zane, and I think you can. I love that idea. Like, you can go into a calorie deficit, right? But you can cut back on carbs for 3 days, cycle your carbs 1 day. I've been doing that for like decades. I love that concept. Always keep your protein high. So Hamid, you want to eat like 152 grams of protein a day, which is so easy to hit. No problem whatsoever. You can carb cycle, go relatively low carb, so like 75 grams of carbs for 3 days. On your 4th day, eat 150 grams of carbs, right? And then, 10 times your body weight, you want to be a deficit, figure out your fat that way. I think that can really work for you. I love that plan a lot too. I love the carb cycling. Even calorie cycling I love. It helps with the metabolism, I think. Even though this research doesn't 100% support it, I like the idea of carb cycling and calorie cycling a lot. That's the new sweetener, right? But it's kind of costly. I've never, I think I've had it in supplements and things like that. I've never bought it straight up. Allulose, I may be pronouncing it wrong. I have a hard time pronouncing things. Allulose. Maybe it's my dyslexia which gets to me. Oh yeah, I always check. Okay, this is Jeff. Oh yeah, I always check to make sure they didn't add any other junk to the monk fruit. Okay, that's good. So you're getting just straight up liquid monk fruit. That's good. I think that's fine then. And monk fruit, I like the taste of monk fruit more than stevia too. I think it's just a little bit more of a normal sugary type taste. A lot of companies put both in there, right? They use a combination. I think monk fruit is more expensive than stevia. They use a little bit of stevia and monk fruit together. You know, when I was going to start that supplement company, you know, that seems like what everyone was recommending to me, a combination of monk fruit and stevia. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that. One day I might come out with some of my own supplements, but I still think there's a lot of issues with supply chain and things like that right now with the pandemic and all that. Okay, I won't use 5. This is Jeff. This is Nicholas. I won't use 5-2 again because I don't need an aggressive calorie deficit anymore. Sounds good. I agree, Nicholas. That sounds great. Hey, thanks for showing up. Okay, you look amazing for your age. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I know I'm 60. I can't believe it. Please tell me, are you consistently on keto diet and intermittent fasting, or are you consuming high carb from time to time? Yeah, no, I'm not on a ketogenic diet. Every now and then, I do like to go into ketosis. I may do it for a week or two. I may just like go into mild ketosis of eating a relatively low carb diet. I intermittent fast 90% of the time. I do. My favorite is still 2MAD, like I talked about, 2 meals a day plus a protein bar, protein shake. You know, 16-8, generally 18-6. I recently, even though I'm thinking about abandoning it because I still would, you know, socially I have a hard time with it. Maybe 6 months ago I switched over to more of an early time restricted eating strategy, meaning that instead of waiting until 12, 1 o'clock before I break my fast, I've been breaking my fast 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. Due to my circadian rhythm, you know, it's just my 24-hour internal clock, and it seems like there is a good amount of research saying that it's better to take in protein or calories early in the day when it comes to maintaining muscle mass. But I have to say, now that I've been doing it for 6 months, I'm still having a hard time in the evening. You know, just my wife now, especially now that we changed the clocks, my wife likes to take a walk after work outside around 5:30, you know, and she doesn't come back home until like almost 7 o'clock. And, you know, she wants to eat dinner around 7:30. And if I do this early time restricted eating, I can't eat dinner with her because, you know, I only give myself an 8-hour eating window. So I think I'm going to, for the summertime, go back to a more traditional 16-8 or 18-6. And I don't think I'm going to abandon the early time restricted eating. What I might do, I know Jeff does this. I'm curious if ESJ does this. I may do like an essential amino acid supplement around 10 o'clock, you know, almost no calories. Get those proteins, get the amino acids in around 10 o'clock, and then go to more of what I used to do for a decade, like maybe eat between 12 and 8 every single day so I can eat dinner with my wife. And I like to be outside too late in the day when the weather is really nice too. So I may do that. So no, you know, I eat a relatively low carb diet too. My sweet spot is 150 grams of carbs a day, but I do what Frank Zane's talking about. I do cycle. I'll go low for like 3 days, you know, 75 grams, like something like that for 3 days. And then the 4th day, I may up it. Or like last night, you're going to see, it's interesting. I think Chris saw it. I showed a video of what I ate in a day when I was doing 18-6. And some people are really on my case. Mike, I thought you're keto, because I did have an Italian antipasta, meaning that I had that Arthur Avenue bread, which I love, with some fresh mozzarella, some tomatoes. I even put some hot super sour, which I love that. And you know, I do carb up from time to time. I actually did it last night. I didn't do the hot super sour. I love that, but I try not to overdo it with that. But I did have a decent amount of Italian bread with fresh mozzarella, and I had this incredible olive oil. Like I may have mentioned, I went to visit my daughter. My daughter did a semester in Rome. It was incredible. And we went to Italy, and I brought back this like incredible olive oil. I mean, I got like 3 bottles of it. I already finished one. I got 2 left. And that's like my dipping and tasting. I won't cook with that. It's just too expensive and too good. So I do carb up from time to time. But the key is, and I know Chris is into this too, the key is, I find, is you never want your muscles and liver to be full to the brim with carbohydrates and then you start eating carbs, right? So say everyone's different depending on how big you are. Say you can store 2,000 calories. Maybe if you're smaller, petite like Susan, maybe she can only store 1,500 calories of carbohydrates in the muscle and the liver. Maybe a guy, me, 160, 162, 63 pounds, maybe I can store 2,200. A bigger guy, maybe Steve, maybe he can store 2,500 grams of carbohydrates in the form of glycogen in the muscle and the liver. The thing is, you don't want them to be full, and then you keep on eating carbs, keep on overdoing the calories, because that's when all the problems start. That's when these carbohydrates get converted into body weight into triglycerides. That's how you get high cholesterol. That's how you get metabolic syndrome. That's how you get insulin resistance. You do that for a decade or two, you got big problems. So my diet approach has always been relatively low, moderate carb. Always been in the last 15 years I'm talking about. You want to deplete your glycogen stores, lower those, carbs in the muscles, but then you do want to fill them up to a degree so you have energy to work out. See, I find if I go ketogenic, and I do it from time to time, I can't get a pump in the gym. I feel like I look flat. Like I lose my biceps. I don't get the veins in my arms, and I have no energy in the gym, even though I'm somewhat fat adapted. I was a little bit more fat adapted a few years ago. I must have went through a 4 or 5 year period when I was really, I would never go above 100 grams of carbs. And I don't know, I like it better now, cycling my carbs a little bit. I got a better pump in the gym. I feel like I can maintain better muscle mass. I feel like I look better. I was almost getting too thin, I felt, a few years ago. Plus I got this bad knee. That's always a problem. So I'm always, working around that. So no, I'm not on a ketogenic diet. I know I'm giving you a long-winded answer to your question, but I eat relatively low carb. I cycle my carbohydrates, always keep my protein high. I go more than 1 gram, not the 0.7. And then I cycle my carbs. And I do the intermittent fasting, like we talked about. Okay, ESJ. Okay, problem with almond milk is that the chemicals and process. I prefer water or raw organic milk. No, I agree with you too. That's what I do. I kind of go straight with the water. See, the organic milk, I'm lactose intolerant, and I can eat things like, I love Greek yogurt. I eat Greek yogurt all the time. I can eat Greek yogurt. I can do a whey protein isolate, but I can't do a whey protein concentrate because it upsets my stomach. I guess the lactose in there, it just bothers me. So I have to go to really clean, like a stripped down protein powder. That's why I like a whey protein isolate. But that's good. I'm glad you showed up, ESJ. You're giving a lot of good, because you're into this stuff. You're giving a lot of good input here. I appreciate it. Okay, but curry chicken with canned coconut oil the best. Oh, cool. Yeah. Okay, let's see Hamid. Okay. Hamid, okay. I'm hoping pronouncing your name right, Hamid. I think that's how you say it. Okay. For the carb cycling, should I be eating more carbs, 1 times my body weight on the days I'm training, pre-post workout, and then 0.5 for the days I'm not training versus 3 days? I love that too. I do that all the time too. I mean, I think you can go either way, but if you want, I think that's a great way of doing it. Like what I like to do, because I do a decent amount of fasted cardio. Like I like to do cardio days fasted a lot of the times, and those are just my more lower carb type days. And there are times definitely when if I'm going to do a heavy hard resistance training day, that is a great day to up the carbs, or even the night before up the carbs like that. So that's a great way of looking at it too. Either you can you could ignore that and just go 3-1, right? 3 low carb days to 1 high carb day, or you can try to time your high carb days to when you're doing like a really hard resistance training day. But it can get a little complicated depending on the timing. I do also like to cycle my workout intensity. I do, not all the time, but sometimes I just do like instinctive like training where I just go into the gym, I wing it every time. But I'm old. If I feel good, I go for it. If I don't feel good that day, I don't go for it. But a lot of times I'll do I like to work in 8 to 10 week cycles where I progressively overload. I go through a harder training cycle, and I might even go from, like, say I'm not looking to lower body fat, but I still don't want to get fat, right? I may go from like lower calorie to higher calorie days based on how hard I'm going to be working out. I like to do that a lot too. Like as I'm increasing the intensity of my workouts, I may up my carbohydrates along the way. But I think both ways can work. But like anything, just think you can store the carbohydrates in your muscle and your liver. So and same thing with protein, right? You can't really store protein, but you kind of can in your muscles, right? You store amino acid in your muscles, even your intestines and your lower intestine, so you can pull them out of the amino acid pool if you really had to. So, it's more important in general, the amount of carbs you eat, the amount of calories, the amount of protein in general, as opposed to trying to go meal to meal and try to go, day to day. Everything is cumulative. That's why I find people also who come to me and say, Mike, I've been in a calorie deficit, I'm not losing weight. But when you really look at them, when you look at the month, they probably weren't in a calorie deficit because they didn't stick to the diet. They may have eaten good for a week or two and all of a sudden had 3 binge days, or they may have eaten good for 5 days, but every weekend they go out and party, for 2 to 3 days. So they're not in a calorie deficit for the week. They're in a calorie deficit for 5 days, but at the end of the month, at the end of the 30 days, they're not in a calorie deficit. These are the common things that people do. And, I've been doing this 35 years. You just see it. You think you're in a calorie deficit because you're eating good for 3-4 days, but then you're not, at the end of the month, you're not in a calorie deficit. Same thing, when it comes to like how much protein can you absorb per meal for protein synthesis. It's really more important how much protein you're taking in consistently every day over the course of the month, as opposed to how much protein each meal. They used to say, only 30 grams, but it's really not 30 grams. The digestion slows down, and you can definitely take in. Well, I take in well over 60 grams of protein many meals. I think I'm using the protein. And besides, you use protein for other things besides just protein synthesis, right? I mean, there's skin, hair, nails, bones, connective tissue. You need protein. Especially the older you get, the more protein you need. Most people don't need anywhere near enough protein. I always say these nutritional studies are so, I think somewhat inaccurate, because so much of the nutritional studies are just based on people's recollections of what they eat. But it seems like the research is pretty good when it comes to how much protein you should eat. You really need to eat more protein than what is recommended and what most people think, especially when you get older, for sure. Okay, ESJ, have blender, can make any nut butter you want. Yeah, that sounds good. That's probably what Susan was talking about too, right? Okay, here's Gwen. Okay, I'm 155 pounds. My weight tracker app says eat 1,333 calories. I think that's a pretty aggressive calorie deficit per day. But I say 1,550 will be better longer, as it's higher in protein. I probably would agree, Gwen. I think 1,333. I mean, like I'm saying, everyone is different. That's pretty aggressive. That's something like 8-9 times your body weight. I think you can do great at 155 pounds eating 1,550, especially if when you do 1,333, you're not taking in enough protein. Because I would really want you. Let's see. Let's do it really quickly. Let me do 155. Say let's take 155. Let's multiply that by 0.7. Yeah, I'd want you a minimum of 108. I want you at least 110 grams of protein a day. So what's that? 440 calories, something like that. So if you go 1,333 and you're cutting back on protein, I would rather you eat 1,550 and you keep the protein up for sure. And keep in mind too, Gwen, what you could do is you can cycle. Like if you wanted to, you can do like 1,555 one day, and then the next day take a couple hundred calories off that. Go 1,355. Just cut back a little bit, but I wouldn't cut back on the protein, cut back on the carbs, cut back on the fat. You can try that too. But I think you'll do great long term with 1,555 till you reach your goal weight, whatever that might be. And then you got to go back up to maintenance calories, right? Here's him again. I usually do full body 5x5 routine 3-4 days a week. Every other day with 2 days rest. I like it. I think that's great. So if you do that, you can easily, since you're doing it 3-4 days a week, every other day, you can even do every other day. Low carb, more carb, low carb, low. You can cycle that way. On the days you do your resistance training, just eat more carbs. On the days you don't, go half. You can do 1 gram, half gram, 1 gram, half gram. I think that's a great way of doing it. Let's see Steve. Okay, here's Steve. Okay. I think keto is a tool in the toolbox. I agree. Not a day-to-day lifestyle. At least for me, I totally agree. Good for rapid weight loss, though. Restrictive eating for too long always backfires. I totally agree with that. I probably overdid it with the keto years ago, too, a little bit. You get into these things. Even Peter T., the guy I always talk about. His book just came out, actually. I think it's called Outlive. I got the audio version of it. 17 hours, the audio version, and I just started listening to the nutrition section. I'm going to listen to that first, and I'll go through the whole book. And why I brought him up is that he went on a ketogenic diet for like 3 years. And he even talks about it briefly in the beginning of this nutrition chapter, that he probably overdid it, being in ketosis for 3 years. I do think it's a good short-term thing. I do think there are good health benefits for being in ketosis. But I like the idea of being within striking distance. Like if you're eating a relatively low-carb diet, you can dip into ketosis if you just cut back for a couple of days. Like say I go to 50 grams of carbs for 2 days, that can be ketosis for a day or two. It is good for mental clarity, and there are some benefits for those ketones. But I don't, me personally, I wouldn't want to be in ketosis for an extended period of time. Like a couple of weeks would be aggressive for me. But it is a great tool to drop body fat. That's why I like if you're doing like a pre-contest type thing. Or like say someone said to me, Mike, we're gonna put you in a movie. You're gonna have your shirt off. You have to look shredded. I would do a program like this, right, for say 8 weeks. Get down to as low as I can, and then 2 weeks before that, I have to take my shirt off for a movie. I go into ketosis, keep the protein up, very low carb, up the fat, right? So I burn as much body fat as I want. I probably get flat. I lose that pump. But then 2 days before I have to do my like shirtless shot for the movie, I'd eat 300 grams of carbohydrates 2 days in a row. I'd probably look great. I get my pump back, and that's probably what I would do. So I like ketosis for like something like that, ESJ, okay. Post your coconut oil you like and sardine brand. I see to only find sardines and soy. Okay, I like Henry and Lisa's. If you follow me on Instagram and on TikTok, probably Instagram's best. I've even shown multiple pictures of it. It's called Henry and Lisa's. It's a small company, like a husband and wife. I like it for a couple of reasons. First of all, if you look at the pictures of my sardines that I post, I think I posted one yesterday or the day before. These sardines are incredible. Sometimes they even give you 4 instead of 3 in the can. And I know it's more than 20 grams of protein. If you look at the glistening of them, I love it. And they use organic extra virgin olive oil. And it's a PBA-free can. I tried them all. I used to buy Wild Planet, but it's not a PBA-free can, but it's still pretty good. But I think that Henry and Lisa's taste the best. After this video, I always say I'm doing it, sometimes I don't. But guys, stay on top of me. You can always comment to me and say, Mike, you didn't leave that link. You said you were going to leave. I'll leave a link to Henry and Lisa's. You can also go to my, I also did a shoppable video on it. Like I always say, guys, if you want to support me too with the channel, you can go up to my Amazon shoppable. I make these shoppable videos on Amazon. I think Chris has done it, where I do reviews of different products, and I review those Henry and Lisa's sardines. So if you buy them on Amazon through my link, I'd make like 1% or 1 or 2%, something like that. So you can support me that way too. And also, I keep on forgetting to say this, guys. If you're enjoying this live stream, like it, share it. Let's try to get more people in the room, for these live streams. Okay, let's see. Okay, post your coconut. Okay, I want to see the coconut oil brand. I haven't been buying coconut oil lately, so I can't really recommend the brand. But I generally just buy whatever organic brand was in the store. Lately, I've just been buying extra virgin olive oil, and I do lean more towards. With the extra virgin olive oil, plus I have these incredible ones from Italy. But I go for those California certified. I like Bragg's. That's one of my favorite extra virgin olive oils. I like Bragg's. It's not that expensive. It's like $20 for a big bottle of it. I even have shoppable videos on that too. I love the taste of it. My test is, like that, just a cough test. Because, you hear all these things about extra virgin olive oil, and now they're saying that, it's not really extra virgin olive oil. You can't trust the companies. They're mixing the oils. They're throwing canola oil in it. That's how I tell if an Italian restaurant is good. I dip a little bit of bread in extra virgin olive oil. If I don't get that burning in my throat, that cough, I know that's not really extra virgin olive oil. It's probably a canola oil like mixture. So I know this Bragg's for a reasonably priced organic, like certified extra virgin olive oil. It really gives you that nice burn and that cough, and it has that greenish color to it. And that's what I go by. That's the test that I go by. Okay, here we go. Okay, Maja, I'm on a low carb, 2 meals, intermittent fasting, 6 days a week. But the 7th day I take on the 7th day I take high carbs and 3 meals. Is it good? Is it better to be consistently low carb every day? No, I actually prefer that. I love that. That's kind of like what I do. I think it's good. I think eat relatively low carb most of the time, and then like once a week or 6 days a week. You fill your muscle and you live with glycogen. Plus, minerals, nutrients. It's good. I think it's great for you. You're cycling your calories. You're filling up your muscle and liver with a little bit of glycogen. You're making sure you're not protein or calorie deficient by being in a calorie deficit for too long. I think it's a good thing. And then you also have the metabolic flexibility. Mark Sesson talks about that all the time. The guy who wrote the Primal Blueprint. He's like a famous guy in this world of nutrition and fitness and everything. I think he just turned 70. He kind of somewhat coined that phrase, metabolic flexibility. So for example, if you're eating low carb like that for 6 days, you're a fat burner, you know, your insulin levels are low, you're in good health, but you have the metabolic flexibility of carving up one day. It doesn't mean you're going to become insulin resistant, you know, from one day of eating high carb. It just means that you're filling up your muscle and liver with glycogen, right? Maybe if you're low all week, maybe you have 2,000 calories that you can fill up your muscles with. And it's actually a good thing. I think it's a good thing. I like it. Here's Gwen. Okay. You're sticking 2 diets really hard. Yeah, the 2 meal a day is really hard. You're saying, for me, probably be fast. You know, sometimes I'm not good with these abbreviations, Gwen. I'm sorry. I'm so bad with these PPLs. And okay, you're sticking to two diet, meaning like 2 meals a day. That's what you mean? Really, it's really hard for me. Be fast food too much. Okay. You know, I don't. Okay, this is when it comes to, like, I just like the 2 meal a day diet. It just works for me with the protein shake, which is really 3 meals in a way. But even when it comes to intermittent fasting, the reason why I like intermittent fasting so much is just from working with literally thousands of people. Like I'm saying, when I first started working in the gym business, I'm 16, you know, into my mid-20s to almost 30. You know, you work in one of those big box gyms, you train 2,000 people. You meet 2,000 people the first year. You know, I train thousands of people. And I find that it's so difficult to get people to eat less. I mean, that's my biggest struggle. People come to my gym, everyone, even if you hate the workout, they come to my gym, they're going to get a good workout. My frustration in my career has been always getting people to eat less, to lose some weight, to improve their health when they're not with me. And it's really hard counting calories, right? Who wants to count calories? Unless you're like a bodybuilder like this, or you're a physique athlete, or you're just really motivated. You know, it's so difficult to count calories. It really is. And I have found that intermittent fasting, by far, I've had the most success with it with people, to get them to lose weight by just telling them, okay, give yourself an 8-hour eating window. Only eat 2 meals a day plus a protein shake, as opposed to me telling them, multiply your body weight by 10 to count calories. So I don't think you have to intermittent fast. I do think there are benefits to being in a fasted state and keeping insulin levels low, and autophagy, you know, like for longevity, like when you're fasting for 16, 18, 19 hours, you upregulate autophagy, and you are getting, you know, the recycle, you know, you're getting the rejuvenation, you know, the repairing of weak and damaged organelles and all. I think there is something at the mitochondria and all that, things like that too, but forget all that. Calorie restriction really does the same thing. So when you don't have to intermittent fast at all, if you can stick to that calorie formula we just talked about, 1,555 calories a day, and you can eat 3 full meals, and eat enough protein, you're gonna do great. You don't have to do the intermittent fasting, especially you don't have to do 2 meals. I think 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, dinner. I would say a couple things I would not want anyone to do is don't eat 3 hours before bed, 2 hours before bed, bare minimum. If you can go like no food after 8 o'clock, and then you don't eat the next day until like 9, 10 in the morning, and then you just stick to your calories, eat enough protein, fiber, you don't have to do the intermittent fasting. But I wouldn't do late night eating no matter what. I would go at least 12 hours without food in your system, because that's just how the body's supposed to work. You're supposed to go to sleep at night, not wake up and eat a cookie or something, you know, right? You know, if you can just go 12 hours, Dr. Panda, who I talk about all the time, the circadian code doctor, you know, that great book, he's into circadian rhythm. He talks about just doing these 12-hour fasts, how incredibly healthy they are for you. Sticking to your normal circadian rhythm, you know, just most people eat, you know, 10, 12 meals a day. Most people eat. When they're awake, they're eating. Every 5 minutes, they're putting something, they're grabbing something. You know how many people could I walk, and I'm going to walk again here. You know how many people I see on the path when I walk, eating when they're walking? I mean, I cannot believe it. They can't take a half-hour walk without a snack bag of food. I would never say anything to anyone. I don't want to insult anybody. But I would say 25% of the people who are walking, when I walk along the Hudson River, like I go to Croton Park, Susan, because she's from the area where I am, Susan, along the Hudson River, I would say 25% of the people are snacking while they're walking. I mean, that's the stuff that goes. So, but you don't have to go on a little tangent. Gwen, you don't have the intermittent fast. I would still go 12 hours without eating, right? No food after 8 o'clock at night. 3 hours before bed. Let's say you're going to sleep 11 o'clock. If you're going to sleep at 10 o'clock, stop eating at 7. Keep your calories in line. Eat that 1,555 calories a day. Make sure you're eating that 108, 110 grams of protein. Eat fiber, because fiber is good. You know, it's good for your digestion, good for satiety. Plus, if you're eating fiber, you're getting fruits and plants and good food. You don't have the interface. You're going to do incredible. And I know you show up here every Sunday. I know you're going to be at your ideal weight. You know, I feel it. I feel it. Right? Susan, oh, you sent me an email? Okay, great, Sue. I'll check it out. Okay, here's James again. Okay, yes, this is James. Yes, yes, you got to be careful if you're a man with keto. Did it years ago. Lost muscle mass because of a low protein. I agree. And even when I did keto, I always kept protein up. So maybe it was maybe probably a little harder for me to get a ketosis because, you know, leucine, you know, the amino acid kind of can pop you out of ketosis. But I totally agree with that, James. Here's Jeff. Doing the Vince Gironda, I hope I'm pronouncing that, Vince Gironda diet, and then later Thomas DeLore, right? That's the other guy with like 3 million followers. I'd love to have a YouTube channel as big as his. Thomas DeLore challenge it. I keep the protein high even when doing keto diets. It's all about keeping carbs really low. Can still have plenty of protein. I agree. No, I like that, Jeff. Definitely. Here's Steve. Buying single source olive oils, not a world blend. Yes, I know. I agree. The single source is definitely the best. I definitely agree. I think they're a little bit affordable. I go with the Greek too a lot. Like the Katamala type olives. That was a brand there I was buying for a while. There's that California brand I used to buy, but they did what you're talking about. They went with like a world blend, even though it's certified. It tastes okay. It's so much more affordable, but you're probably right. Maybe a little suspect. Maybe not as good. Yeah, no, it's hard. I like that Bragged. I think the Bragged is Katamala olives straight from Greece. I'm pretty sure, but I could be wrong. Okay, RNJ Madden. Let's see what we got. I usually do 24. So if people don't know what that means, it just means that he or she fasts for 20 hours, and then takes in all the calories within a 4-hour eating window. I've lost 20 pounds in the last 2 months. Oh, that's awesome. Thanks to you. Oh, I love hearing this. This is great. I was thinking of maintaining the 24, but adding 5-2 aspect on my rest days, and I'm not training thoughts. Okay, this is what I would say. Say 2 months. This is another general rule I have. You've been probably in a pretty good calorie deficit for 2 months. I like to use the general rule like 6 weeks. You can go 8 weeks too. But after being in a good calorie deficit for 6 to 8 weeks, I really do like people to take a diet break. Diet break meaning go to maintenance calories. I know it could be, you get concerned that you're going to gain weight. You may gain a pound or two. But the reason is that just on the research is a little mixed, but just on those studies based on the people from that TV show, The Biggest Loser, who went into like aggressive calorie deficits for like weeks on end. Even years later, their metabolism is messed up. You know, when you lose weight, there's that metabolic adaptation where your metabolism slows down, which is a good thing, but you can over-exaggerate that. Plus 2 or 24, just to make sure you're taking up enough vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. I would probably at this point, and it could be a little counterintuitive to you, but I probably want you to take a couple of weeks off, go up to maintenance calories. You don't have to necessarily go with like 3 meals a day. You can go with like a 16-8, maybe for 2 weeks. You're going to fill your muscles and liver with glycogen, and you may gain a pound or two. But I think long term, it would be a good thing for you to do that. I don't want to mess you up, but I probably would do that. You've done so good. You lost like 20 pounds. And then if you want to, after the 2 weeks, you can go to more of a 5-2, which I love. Like eat normally 5 days a week. And then 2 days a week, you do the low calorie days, prioritizing protein. I would probably do something like that. If you don't want to do the diet break, the 5-2 might bring you up to maintenance calories for 5 days and then 2 days in a calorie deficit. That could be fine too. But I do like the idea of how you're thinking that now it's time to maybe get away from the 24, because 24 is really aggressive. That's like the warrior diet more. I wouldn't do that for more than like the 2 months that you did it. So you got a couple options. Either you can do a diet break and then go to 5-2, or maybe you may want to just go like I said, I'm almost agreeing with you. You can go to 5-2, and then 5 days out of the week, you're going to be at maintenance calories, and then 2 days you'll be in a deficit. You can do that too. I like either of it. I like how you're thinking, but I'm so happy that you lost the 20 pounds, and I love hearing stuff like this. Thank you. Okay, this is thanks so much for your answer. Oh no, I appreciate it. Thanks for showing up. This is great. Hey, Iris from Germany. Thanks for showing up. Iris leaves me tons of great comments. Thanks for showing up, Iris, so much. I appreciate it. Okay, here's Susan. Okay. Once you said that a 2MAD may not be ideal for someone without a gallbladder, can you elaborate? Sure. See, the problem with the gallbladder is, it's the bile and all that, is that I would probably want someone without a gallbladder to eat smaller meals, because it's harder to process these meals when you don't have a gallbladder, right? Even protein, fats, and carbs. Now, obviously, the fats a little bit. So if someone doesn't have a gallbladder, I probably would rather them do more like 3 meals a day. I think you can definitely do, Susan, do a 16-8 though. I probably wouldn't want you to do a 2MAD because 2 meals a day, you're gonna have to eat bigger meals and you're gonna have to eat higher protein, higher fat type meals. I'd probably rather you do a 16-8 or maybe like a 14-hour fast, and then taking in 3 like smaller size meals, as opposed to doing 2MAD. That would be the only reason from that. I would say that because I've had a number of people over the years. It's funny because some people start working with me, they don't tell me they don't have a gallbladder, and they say, Mike, I'm eating these 2 meals. I mean, they're kind of big. I'm feeling nauseous. I don't feel good afterwards. And then we start telling me, he said, by the way, I don't have a gallbladder. I said, oh, that's an issue. I think you can totally have a 100% normal everything, normal life, normal everything without a gallbladder. But you might want to, I would limit the amount of calories you're taking per meal. Even if you did 4 meals or 3 meals in a maybe 8 to a 10-hour eating window, I think you can do great. And I think you're taking some of the bile salts and things like that, which is probably a good idea if you don't have a gallbladder as well too. Here's Gwen. I mean, any diet is hard to stick with. Oh, that's really this. Oh, sorry, Gwen. Yeah, I'm not good with these things. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Any diet is hard to stick with, definitely. Being in a calorie deficit is not easy. And just tracking this stuff. I mean, it seems like everyone's lives around, all our lives like revolve around eating, right? I mean, it's just how it is. Retired 2019. Oh, pretty cool. That's good. Mike, I enjoy your channel. New subscriber. Oh, thanks. That's great. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I should have more subscribers to my channel, but I appreciate you showing up. Okay. Yeah, my roommate, this is Gwen. Yeah, my roommate snacks around. Yeah, my roommate has snacks around all the time. I have to control. I know you have to control yourself. I know. Definitely, we talked about this before, Gwen, in the past. I'm a big believer too in eliminating those trigger foods out of your life, getting them out of the house, but it's really difficult. Trigger foods are just foods that once you eat them, you can't stop eating them. For me, they're like potato chips and things like that. Like if there's potato chips in the house, I'm going to eat them. I just cannot stop eating them. And I definitely am a big believer if you want to lose weight, just to eat healthier. You can't have those trigger foods in your house, and it can be challenging when you have like family members or loved ones. I know for some people, just when they have little kids, like when I had little kids, we had potato chips in the house, things like that, because the kids just love them. And if you have a roommate that has these things, they can be a little challenging. But see if you can keep them out of visual sight, if possible. Retired 1920. I do 16-8. It works for me. Now, that's probably my favorite. That is my favorite plan, 16-8. I think it's I think you can be at maintenance calories. You can be in a deficit. You can be over maintenance. You can be a positive energy balance if you want to put on muscle. You get the benefits of being in a fasted state. I like the 2MAD, with a protein shake, 16-8. That's my favorite long-term strategy. You can do it for the rest of your life. I think it's great. Great way to be in a calorie deficit too for most people. But I wanted to respond to a comment. I forget the guy's name. He commented, I was talking about 16-8 or 18-6, saying how most people eat less, but some people just don't, and some people don't. He was saying he'll eat 4,000 calories in a 6-hour eating window, and some people can do that. But then I'll respond to his comment later this week, and I'm just going to tell him, sometimes you have to count calories. You just do, even if you're intermittent fasting. Let's see, Iris. Oh, yes, my husband snacks all the time. That's why he's 170 kilos. Yeah, I know. That snacking can get you. It really can. It's not easy. Okay. This is retired 2019. That's a cool handle. I'm 202 pounds with 27% body fat. I exercise regularly. How many calories? Okay, so we'll do a simple calculation. 202. Let's say you're going with that 10 times rule. 2,020 calories a day. So eat about 2,000 calories a day. I think that'll be a nice calorie deficit for you. But then you also want to go. Let's go 200 times 0.7. And you also want to eat about 140 grams of protein a day. I would do something like that. 2,000 calories a day, 140 grams of protein. I think you'll do great with Tide 219. Here's James. Okay, Mike, I finish dinner around 5 p.m., but sometimes in the evening I get a little hungry. If I eat something with non-fat yogurt, that's exactly what I do. I go with those Greek yogurts, and I may even do a low-fat one if it's a little bit later than I typically would. 100 calories, 15 grams of protein. But I typically love the 5%, which is 140 calories, 15 grams of protein. I think that's great, James. That's exactly what I would do. And I know you're lower body, you're a little younger than me, but you're lower body fat than me. But I think you're right on track. Love it. Here's Jeff. Okay, if you had the Lord's number of followers, you wouldn't be able to answer every question. I agree on this live stream though. I've been in his, and his chat goes flying up the screen at light speeds. So I like yours. No, I appreciate it. Thanks, Jeff. And he's talking about Thomas DeLoy. I think he has like 3,000 subs. And when these guys go live, they can literally get 10,000 people in the room, and they seem to probably only answer people's questions who give them like super chats, right? So, but that's probably why he does it. A guy like that can go live. He can make a few $1,000s doing one live stream just from everyone's super chats, So, I mean, I guess that's the nice thing about following someone like me, since I'm a small channel, and I love doing these live streams. I do. But I still have to try to make a living, I have to say the gym business, ever since the pandemic, I always did incredibly well with my gym, I mean, a nice, great living from it. But ever since the pandemic, it's just not the same. I have to say, I used to have like a 10-15% cancellation rate, which is quite kind of like a normal thing. Ever since the pandemic, though, people cancel like crazy, and it really affects my personal training gym. That's why I'm trying to get established online, doing more things like, one-on-one. And I just, so if you guys know, if you ever want to work with me online, I do one-on-one hour consults. I do 1 month coaching, which is pretty expensive though, where you can talk to me every single day and I'll prescribe everything with you. I use like True Coach, and we email each other every single day. And I also have, I have to change it though. A girl just did it. She didn't like it, but a lot of people have loved it. I have this low-carb intermittent fasting course. I sell for like $97. But if you listen to me, I don't know if you really need that course. But it takes you through like it tells you exactly what to do over like a 4-week period. But it's very educational. Like the girl who just bought it, she was complaining, "Oh, Mike, it's such a course." Like I explain what intermittent fasting is, and I go into like the science and all that. I think she just wants to learn, like, tell me what to eat, give me a meal plan, which I do later in the course. But just keep that in mind. Okay, let's see what we got here. NRJ Madden. Okay, I'm 21. He's 21, 6'2", 189. That's a pretty good weight. Eating about 2,400 calories a day, 190 grams of protein. Love it. Train 4 days a week. Monday chest, back, biceps. Tuesday legs, triceps, shoulders. Rest Wednesdays. Love it. I think you're doing great. I think you're right on track, and I think you're at a good weight. 6'2", 190. I think that's a nice weight. 2,400 calories a day, 190 grams of protein. I can't even improve on it. I think you're doing great. Susan, yep, leaner meals intuitively are better for me. Like a leaner, you mean lean? I'm not sure. I'm such an idiot when it comes to these abbreviations and reading stuff. I guess it's interesting. I don't know if people, I talk about it all the time, dyslexia. Dyslexia is such a confusing thing to understand if you don't have it. Because like, I always reference that movie, Percy Jackson's movie. I said this in the past. Have you ever seen the movie in Percy Jackson where he has dyslexia, and they actually give such an example of it? Like they show like a sentence and they eliminate letters out of it. That's how I don't see certain letters when I'm reading it. It's amazing to me. So I have to read something 5 times to really see it. Okay, this is, oh my God, you have to read my email later. Okay, I definitely will, Susan. I definitely will. 191 pounds, sorry. No, that's okay. 189, that's very similar. Okay. Kamika 285. Let's see what she said. He or she says. Okay. I'm 318 pounds, 33 years old. I would like to be 200 pounds. Any pointers on how many calories to reach my goal? Okay, this is what I would probably do that calorie cycling formula. And I want you to stick to it. I know you got a lot of weight to lose. I always say too, if you have to lose more than 100 pounds, you also may always want to just bug a doctor. and see what your healthcare person says on if you go on any new diet. But I just want to say that. But this is probably what I would do. I would take your body weight, let's say you're 300 instead of 318, multiply that by 10. Day one, I probably would eat 3,000 calories. You're probably gonna be in a calorie deficit even at 3,000 calories. But day two, multiply your body weight, multiply your goal weight. Go with 2,000 calories. If you think that's too much of a distance, like 3,000 calories one day, 2,000 calories the next, you can probably be a little bit more aggressive. And I would probably go with something like 2,500 calories one day, 2,000 calories the next day. And just keep on repeating that. So Monday, 2,500, Tuesday, 2,000, Wednesday, 2,500, Thursday, 2,000, right? Then I would take your goal weight, 200 pounds, multiply that by 0.7. Make sure you're eating, once again, 140, 150 grams of protein a day. Okay, so number one, you're going to be in a calorie deficit. Let's go with the 2,500 calories, 2,000. Keep on cycling. It'll be easy for you to stick to your diet. It'll be good for your metabolism. I don't think you're going to be ravenously hungry with 2,500 calories. You might be a little hungry with 2,000 calories, right? You want to eat an adequate amount of protein, 140 grams minimum. You can even go higher. That's going to help maintain your muscle mass. There's a lot of satiety, meaning that you're going to eat like a piece of fish or a piece of steak. It'll stop you from being hungry. And the third thing I would want you to do is try to eat a minimum of 30 grams of fiber. And the reason why I always say that 35 grams is that instead of me telling you exactly what to eat, if you like look up some of your foods and just make sure you're eating high fiber type foods like vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower and string beans and arugula salads and avocados, it's going to guarantee me that you're eating well. For example, if you start eating cookies and cakes and donuts and ice cream and things like that, it's going to shoot you up too high on calories and you're not going to be getting the fiber. So if you can be in a calorie deficit, right, 225, 2,000, and you're going to eat an adequate amount of proteins, you're going to be eating like chicken, fish, meat, eggs, Greek yogurt, all the things we're talking about, and then you make sure you're eating enough fiber, you're going to have to eat like vegetables and some fruit, you're going to kill it. You're going to do incredibly well. As opposed to me telling you exactly what to eat every meal, stick to that formula. Calories, protein, fiber. You can do it. I mean, and 318 pounds, you're gonna start losing weight quickly initially, and then you're gonna hit some plateaus. I mean, Chris who's here all the time, he is done like, I'm so impressed by him. He lost like 40 pounds in 4 months, switching over to like a style of eating like that. He is just doing amazing well. You can do it. You really can do it. Just be consistent. And if 2,500 calories is too low, 2,500, 2,000, you can do 3,000, 2,500 too. And don't think, I like mixing it up a lot. You can do 25, 2,000 for a month and then go 3,000, 25. You can mix things up for sure. Okay, let's see where I am question-wise. Okay, so now we got retired to. Thanks, Mike, for your advice. No, I appreciate it. Mike, okay, Mike, I can tell you're passionate about health and well. Oh, thanks, I appreciate it. Yes, I am. I am. I love it. It's all I've been doing my whole life. I love it. I like Thomas a lot. He talked about Thomas DeLore. But these live streams are more personal and I'm down to earth. Good stuff. Keep. Oh, no, I appreciate it. Oh, thanks, Steve. Thanks for showing up. It's great. Cool. Here's Susan. Smaller meals, what? That was a typo. Okay. Okay. This is this is the younger guy, NRG Madden. The thing is, I thought, Mike, I didn't have a lot of muscle mass at 6'2". I don't know. I think at 6'2", 191. I think that's pretty much. I mean, maybe you're bigger boned, and maybe I'm not saying you can't put on muscle. I think you can. I'd like to be 24% body fat. I'd like to get to 165 now. Okay, I think 165 you'll be way too thin. That's just my personal opinion. I'm like close to 170. I'm close to 165, and I'm only like 5. I'm right on the 5'9". I'm 5'8" and 3. I like to say 5'8" 3/4 because I'd love to be 5'9". I think you'd be too thin. That's my opinion, but I don't know your body type and what to say. But I think. A general rule is every inch on a man, 10 pounds is 10 pounds. So let's say I'm 160. I'm 5'9". 9, 10, 11, 12, 4. You should be, I don't know. I think at 6'2", if you can get down to like 20% body fat, maybe even lower, I don't think you have to be anywhere near 165. Not even close. I think you can definitely be like 185-ish even. At 6'2", you're pretty tall. I don't think you have to go anywhere near that low. Plus, you're still growing too. You're still young. You're still growing. I think people grow into their mid-20s. You don't reach your strength peak. That's why boxers, don't really mature until they're like 30, 31. Powerlifters sometimes make their best lifts in their 40s, but generally early 30s. Yeah, you're still growing. I don't think you have to go. I mean, if you want to just look 165, but I think 165, you'd be really. I think you'll be too thin. Here's James again. Mike, this was a great live stream. If anyone's more interested in the golden era bodybuilding, check out Golden Era Bookworm. Oh, I gotta check that out on YouTube. It's fascinating. I'll definitely check that out, James. I like that. I love all the bodybuilding stuff. Hey, Darlene, thanks so much for showing up. This is great. What about carb cycling every third day? Will that work? Yes, we talked about it a lot in the beginning of this. Yes, that's exactly what we've been talking about. 3 days. Okay, this is, and we're talking about like Frank Zane's like high def formula. He has this formula where for 3 days out of the week you take your body weight, like I have in this slide here, you times it by 0.5, and that's your low carb days for 3 days. But on the fourth day, you take your body weight, you multiply it by 1 gram. So let's just say you're 100 pounds. So 3 days a week you'll be eating 50 grams of carbs, but then 1 day a week, your fourth day. I shouldn't say 1 day a week. Your fourth day, you go up to 100 grams of carbs, right? So let me make it a little more realistic. So if you're 150 pounds, you can eat 75 grams of carbs for 3 days, and then the fourth day, you eat 150 grams of carbs. I like that carb cycling. It's great. Let's see. 170 pounds, good. I still think 170 is kind of lean in a NRG, but I know I don't want to mess you up. If I'm kind of endomorphic right now, at 6'2", that's tall. 6'2", you're tall. I think 170 is still pretty. I mean, why don't you just go? Why don't you take it a week at a time? Just keep on losing weight. I mean, what are you? You're 191. Get down to like 185 and see how you look and feel. I mean, you want to maintain that muscle mass. I even think 170 is kind of lean for you, unless you like that real lean muscular look. I think 170 is even kind of lean. I mean, kind of maybe too thin. It's hard for me. I can't, and I don't want to throw you off. I mean, go as low as you like, but just take it one step at a time. Just evaluate. Get down to 185 and reevaluate yourself and see what you think. A general rule is too: for every 10 pounds you lose an inch off your neck and an inch off your arms too. So. It's I think 170, 162. I'd almost rather you stay at like 185, 190 and just muscle up. Increase your muscle mass and reduce your body fat. I don't think you're at 191. I don't think you have to lose all that much weight. I think you get into the mid 180s. I think you're going to be really happy. Let's see. And this just to go back to the slide with Frank Zane thing. He wants you to clean up your diet, talk about all the food we're eating, and these are the supplements they like that he talks about. That Frank talks about in the book. He likes he's into those. He was one of the first ones taking those essential amino acids back like in the 70s and 80s. He used to get them from a special place in California, super expensive. But now you can get them, pretty reasonable. It's interesting, Jeff, because I know Jeff's taking he got a new brand. A company just reached out to me on Instagram because I had one video go viral on Instagram. I got like 800,000 views on Instagram. I got like 8,000 subscribers, which is great. And now all these people reach out to me. They want me to, promote and talk about their brands. And this brand did have an essential amino acid supplement that was pretty inexpensive. It was like 50 cents per dose. Which was you generally have to spend $1. I'm going to look into it more. I have to see what else they're putting in it, but I'm going to look into it, and I'll let you know about that. So Frank Zane he's into those amino acids. He's into egg protein powder. Back then, egg protein was a big thing. L-glutamine, which is a good amino acid. I think it's a conditional amino acid, which is good for muscle recovery. He also loves multivitamins. Like I said, he was taking L-arginine. He likes L-arginine. I probably would take L-citrulline nowadays instead. And this was interesting. All these old-time bodybuilders, they all took like concentrated liver, like a liver extract. I remember Frank Colombo was really into that. You know, high in iron, high in B vitamins. It's pretty good. This is the NJR. Okay. Really, at 191 right now, I have a decent amount of fat around my torso, abdominal area. I think 180 I'll eventually, and I'll see I would get. No, I think, yeah, you should think more 180-ish. I think that's better. 165, 170, I think is too low. I think you could look incredibly good at 180. Just think about, take it real slow. Don't lose any muscle mass, right? Keep on working out. Slowly reduce your calories. Keep your protein high. And 1 pound at a time, right? 1 pound at a time. Okay, so let's go over, I always like to pull in some meals. Let me go over some meals. This is that meal I had that said wasn't quite as, like I say, I eat bacon. I want to show people I do eat bacon from time to time. But see, I'm always prioritizing protein. I had this meal. I think I made a video on this meal. You can't really see it. But I made a video on how I cook my omelet. And there's a lot more to this omelet than you think. First of all, this is a 5-egg omelet. See, I always prioritize protein. I think there's 78 grams of protein per egg. So what's that? 35, 40 grams of protein there. I didn't make a whole bunch of boards, had bacon, which I love bacon. And every now and then I treat myself to some bacon. But underneath this omelet, you can't see it. I have a whole bunch of fresh mozzarella and I have some tomatoes. So it's a pretty hefty omelet. Then I got my avocado and my blueberries. So once again, prioritizing protein, high in fiber because the avocado's there and the blueberries, right? You know, it's fun. It's a good, healthy, fun way of eating. Some people say, Mike, why are you eating bacon? But hey, bacon once a month, I don't think it's bad for you. But this is my main way of eating, and this is what I mean by perfect. Let me get this back because I missed a question here. You know, this is what I mean by like perfect eating. You know, I have my arugula salad, right, high in nitrates. I eat 100 grams of arugula almost every single day. 100 grams of arugula has about 400 milligrams of nitrates, which will definitely increase exercise performance. Good for increasing nitric oxide in the body. Then I have my avocado, eat an avocado every day, loaded with potassium, loaded with fiber. Then I have, I think it looks like salmon to me. It must have 8-9 ounces of salmon right there. My blueberries, EVOO, and some balsamic vinegar. I always like the balsamic vinegar too, because balsamic vinegar is like apple cider vinegar. It helps control blood sugar post-meal. So whenever I'm having these salads, I always take in some balsamic vinegar. Okay, and this is, I think I made a video on this too. Here's James. Mike, I saw you crack your eggs one-handed in the short, oh, thanks. Yeah, I make eggs all the time. Thanks. I kind of did that on purpose because it seems like I find that if you don't do something with these short videos, in the first 1 second frame of that video that catch someone's attention, the video bombs. So either I'll do something like that, or that sometimes I put those captions like, you know, get ripped or something like that, just to catch people's eye when they're scrolling, you know, through the videos. So I like this meal a lot too. This I think is a great meal. Some people thought this was a high calorie meal, but it really isn't as high calories as you think. And these are those Henry and Lisa sardines. So Steve, look at this. Look at these sardines here. I mean, this is such good quality sardines. They only give me 3 in the can this time though. Sometimes they give you 4. So you know, since I always want to get 50, 60 grams of protein, this can gives me 21 grams of protein. So I had leftover salmon from the night before, threw another 4 grams, 5 grams there. So now I'm over like 50 or 60 grams. A little arugula salad. Stewed tomatoes, I love stewed tomatoes, almost like a free food, almost no calories. But I do stew them in extra virgin olive oil. Then I have my orange. Oranges are on sale lately now. They're getting 4 oranges, $5. I guess it must be orange season. Love oranges, vitamin C, fiber. Half an avocado. I mean, this is just like perfect eating. And obviously, this is how I'm eating. You know, someone like Gwen, you know, you may want to cut back on the calories. Someone like NRG, you know, you may want to eat as much as me, maybe even more. You know, it depends on what your goals are. You can adjust calories accordingly. I want to give some more dinner. People feel like I don't do enough dinner type things, but my dinner is similar to my lunch. This must be a pound. I think this is an Arctic char, this or trout here. It looks like salmon, but I don't think it is. I must have 100 grams of protein right there, 80 grams of protein right there. I always try to go with 2 different colored vegetables. I probably didn't do a salad for lunch. That's why I'm having had salad for dinner. So I got my tomatoes, once again, my avocado, my blueberries, and my arugula. That's an example. This is a little repetitive. This is a similar salad. I always throw fruit in my salads, but if you notice here, I have some cashews, grapes and blueberries, just to mix it up a little bit. I want to give some small, I do small meals like this all the time too, but look at this, is a great healthy high protein small meal. So I got smoked salmon here, probably 6 ounces. I love smoked salmon, it's just so expensive for me. But that's probably 35 grams of protein right there. Then I wanted to increase the protein, so either I go with I buy all different types of Greek yogurt. This one has 16 grams of protein in it. This is the Ziggs one. I think that's the grass-fed, grass-finished protein. Potassium fiber with the avocado, some strawberries. Great small meal, right? I thought I had a couple of others. Maybe not. Let me see. Did I go through everything? That's the eggs. Yeah, I guess I went through everything. All right, cool. All right, guys. Thanks for showing up. This is good. How long have we been going? An hour 44. This is great. All right. Any other questions before I go? I also want to start diversifying these live streams. I hope you want to. I was almost going to do one today on how to improve sleep quality. I actually recorded a video that I'm going to release tomorrow. I don't really talk about it. I don't like to talk about somewhat negative things. Like I've been suffering from face headaches for like over 10, 12 years. Intermittently, like sometimes that would last for like 2 weeks. I had an MRIs on my brain. Everything's normal. No, they were like idiopathic. I went to all these doctors. No one can figure out what's wrong with it. I went to an ENT guy. He said, "Oh, Mike, you're grinding your teeth. Try a retainer. Maybe that's going to help you." And I've been dealing with these headaches for years, and then all of a sudden I figured out how to solve them through nose breathing and walking. And so I did a video on that. I was almost going to do a video today on how to improve sleep quality. I'm going to start diversifying a little bit because I also feel like a lot of the same people are showing up, which I love. I don't want to just bore you guys talking about the same things over and over again, even though I'll always answer your questions on weight loss. But I may do one next week on how to improve sleep quality because I think sleep quality is key. And I'm going to start diversifying these live streams into more health and general things like that. I may even do one how to increase nitric oxide because there's so many benefits for increasing nitric oxide in the body, for vasodilation, for blood flow, for brain health, all things like that. Let's see, Susan got a question here. Let's see, okay. All of those meals look great. What's your opinion on beans and lentils, high fiber and some protein? I think it's okay, Susan. I like that. I'm always a little carb sensitive. So to me, like I always talk about this, the protein leverage hypothesis. The researchers, I think they're out of New Zealand or Australia, came up with this hypothesis saying that people will keep on eating until they reach their protein requirement. So I like to go with more like nutrient-dense type sources of protein. So I think beans and lentils are fine and they're high in fiber, but you're also taking in a reasonable amount of carb calories along with them. So, I mean, if you're a vegetarian or vegan, there's obviously they're great and you almost have to eat them. But the only times I generally eat beans is I make my buffalo. I know Chris has made. I make my buffalo chili, and I throw half a can of beans instead of a whole can of beans in it. I think it's fine. It's just that I'm always thinking calories when it comes to protein sources, but I think it's fine. I think it's fine. Just I wouldn't make it like a daily staple. Like I know people love hummus, and hummus to me it's you have to eat so much of it to get a reasonable amount of protein. Even with beans too, you have to take in a decent amount of calories, as opposed to just having like a 4-ounce piece of fish or something to get 25-50 grams of protein. To get 60 grams of protein just straight with beans and lentils, I mean, just the fiber and bloatiness of the meal, I don't think you could even do it. This is James. Once again, thanks. Oh, thanks, James. I'm glad. I mean, you're the one who inspired me to do this live stream, so this is great. All right, so that's what I'm saying. So yeah, so I hope you guys don't mind. I'm going to start diversifying a little bit, with these live streams. And we'll see how it goes. Okay. It's not my main source, but I like it for variety and of course for fiber. No, totally agreed. I think it's a nice accent. I like it more for the fiber, almost more than even the protein. And I do like it for vegetarians and vegans to get like rice and beans, like complete protein-ish type thing. But I like the accent. Even that's why I like the chili. Like the chili recipe, that buffalo chili that I make, it recommends. They generally say only make it with 2 pounds of bison or chopped meat. I go with 3 pounds, and they generally recommend like a big can of beans. I go with like half a can of beans. So I love beans too. But I think I do. I like it for the fiber, and I think it's a nice accent, for sure. All right, guys. Any other questions before I go? I think it's pretty nice out in New York today. It's a little cold. I think what's the temperature today here? I think it's surprisingly kind of cold out. Let me see. What do we got? Yeah, I'm going to go to Croton now. 49 degrees. It's not too bad, but blazing sun. Sometimes it's 10 degrees. It's windy when you walk along the water, but 45 degrees. Not too bad. All right, guys. I appreciate everyone showing up. This was great. Thanks for showing up. Chris, too, thanks for those tips on Facebook. I'm sorry I didn't even realize you were doing that to me. But I really appreciate it. Once again, guys, thanks for showing up. Share this. Tell your family, your friends about me. Let's get a lot of people in these live streams going forward. But take care, everyone. Have a wonderful day. And I will see everyone next Sunday. And I guess this live stream went off using my phone as a hotspot. I guess everything worked, which I'm really happy for. But take care, and hope everyone have a wonderful week. Take care.